Jai Baba.
Avatar Meherabad Ki Jai. And I'll turn it over to Susan to start us off with some information about Mansari. Jai Baba.
Oh, okay. I'm on. Let's see. I'm trying to get the view right so I don't get distracted here. I see Hop chewing breakfast more more than anything else. Okay, there we go. Um, Jai Baba, everyone. It's such a pleasure to be here with you. And it was so much fun putting this all together. So I hope you enjoy it. We're going to start out with this bio and a few stories that I've gathered, and then I'll introduce the iMovie I made, and then we'll go to your sharing. Mansari Desai was born on the 17th of August in 1909 in Navsari, Baroda state, north of Bombay, which is now called Mumbai. However, years later, when she came to live with Baba, he renamed her Mansari, a combination of Mani and Navsari, to avoid confusion with Baba's sister Mani. And Mansari Desai kept that name until she was swept into Baba's arms on Duni Day, January 12th, 1997. In the 1970s, especially, she was known to many as the small elderly woman who lived on the hill, the resident caretaker of Baba's Samadhi. Judith Ernst writes, now that Meherabad is flourishing as its name promised, it's hard to remember how stark it was in the early 1970s, when young pilgrims from the US and Europe started to arrive. While Meherabad conveyed to us the gentle sweetness of Baba's residence, Meherabad reminded us of that much of Baba's, reminded us of the harsh working condition which the Mandali lived under and the strict regimen Baba required. Mansari at Upper Meherabad and Padri at Lower Meherabad embodied that discipline to us. Early in the morning, Mansari would arrive at the tomb, often with a scarf around her head against the chill of the morning, opening the tomb with a big key. She would supervise the cleaning of the tomb in the morning, designating which of us would help, with which task, and allowing one of us to carefully place the morning's flowers after Arti. Yeah, just one of us or a couple. I remember doing that with Daryl. At night, it became dark. She would arrive at the tomb with a lantern before electricity arrived, motioning us to go in when it was time for evening Arti to begin. After Arti, she enjoys sitting as people sang songs to Baba, or perhaps told a story. Sometimes the mood would be somber. Sometimes we'd all sit and giggle for half an hour. She had a strict but simple schedule, which included fasting one day a week. But she always would have tea for us at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and allowed time for chatting. I met her twice, once in 1979 with my husband Daryl, and 15 years later in 1994, when we brought our 2 children to India for the first time. Mansari was 84 years old in July 1994. From the moment we first met, she felt like my Indian granny. And back in the States, it was so special to exchange the occasional airmail letter. So you can imagine how I felt when I happened to be staying on center when the meeting place program focused on Mansari's passing. And I was given the opportunity to share my remembrances of her with both my parents and family in the audience. Now here's how Baba caught her in his net. In 1923, Meherabad visited the home of her uncle, Sarabji, a well-known writer. It was her uncle Sarabji's interest in spirituality and his own poetry that first attracted Baba to her family. And it was during this visit that Meherabad made a point of walking into each room in Sarabji's home. Later, Mansari stayed with her uncle for about 14 years, actually. But it was Kaikabad, however, one of Baba's earliest Mandali members, who was the link between Baba and Mansari. Through Kaikabad, 4 years later in 1927, she came to Meherabad for the first time with some of her family to see Baba. Since the age of 5, Mansari had suffered from an incurable skin disease. The best doctors had been called. She was sent to the finest hospitals in Bombay, but no medicine or treatment worked. When Mansari agreed to go to Meherabad at Kaikabad's behest, she was skeptical of her family's faith in Baba. Meeting Baba, however, changed her heart, and she bowed to him weeping. Kaikabad narrated her sufferings to Baba, who remarked, "And only because of this you weep so much?" Mansari replied, "I'm not weeping because of my disease, but because of your love." Baba consoled her with these instructions. "Don't worry, you will be permanently cured. Take some ash from my duni, and every morning before tea, say my name and swallow a pinch of it." Returning home to Navsari, Mansari followed Baba's exact instructions. In a month, she seemed completely cured. Soon after her recovery, Mansari's uncle, Sarabji Desai, went to see Baba. I'm sorry, Desai. Sarabji Desai went to see Baba. Returning to Navsari, he told the family, "Baba sends his love and blessings to you all." Sometime after that, I'm not sure the exact timing, Baba developed a skin disease similar to Mansari's. Mansari grew angry with worry, believing Baba had taken on her suffering and was suffering on her behalf. Her disease returned. And when she next met Baba, she prayed to him not to take on her suffering. Baba replied, "Let it be as it is. Neither you nor I will have to suffer. This was all my gain to draw you to me. It was I who created this incurable disease. And now that you are mine, you will never have to suffer from it again." True to his words, the disease left Mansari forever. About 7 years later, in early July 1935, Baba went back to Navsari. Even though Baba wished to remain in seclusion, Chanji had been sent a few hours in advance to inform Sarabji and his family so they could meet Baba at the Navsari railway station, where Baba's train would be stopping briefly. Everyone in Sarabji's family was devoted to Meher Baba. Sarabji Desai and Kiki De Bajan's families, including Mansari, were waiting on the station platform to greet him. 2 years later, a public darshan program was held in Navsari on the 23rd of December, 1937. Sarabji's niece, Mansari, was again deeply affected by Baba's love. Thereafter, she desired to stay permanently with Baba. And twice during Baba's stay in Panchgani, she had come to plead her case. But Baba made her go back home each time. However, he instructed her to be prepared to move to Ahmednagar whenever he happened to call her. That call came on the 15th of June, 1938. She was 29 years old, and when she arrived, she was put in charge of cooking, a job she did during the next 2 months of their stay in Ahmednagar. On the 1st of February, 1939, Baba left Agra around noon for Delhi. Baba took the women, including Mansari, to see Qutub Minar, a stone tower 238 feet high, the highest structure in India at the time. He climbed only partway up and then came down. But Mansari thought Baba had continued up, so she climbed to the top. The group was about to leave when Baba noticed Mansari was missing. He looked up and saw her waving from the top. Baba motioned to her to come down immediately. When she came, he asked, "Are you mad? Why didn't you follow us down?" Mansari explained that she thought he had gone to the top and she wanted to be with him. Upset, Baba scolded her. "You want to be with me and say you love me? It's so difficult to be with me. So difficult to love me. The Qutub Minar has separated you from me." In Delhi, at the time the group was leaving Christie's tomb, Baba turned to Mansari, dictating, "A fakir once said, when I saw in my own heart the impression of divine beauty, the sight of God, wherever I cast my gaze, I saw Pavardigar." Mansari then asked if Baba was that fakir. Baba nodded, yes, he was, for he had spontaneously dictated these poetic lines in honor of Chisti, the Kutub-i-Irshad of this time, the head of the spiritual hierarchy. In 1941, Mansari was given the task of translating articles from the Meherabad journal into Gujarati. She was living at Meherabad at the time. Baba had taken up residence in his jhopdi in Lower Meherabad, but he would walk up the hill daily to work with the musts and to meet Mera and Mani. Because he was still in partial seclusion, when Baba was walking up the hill, a bell would be rung, and all the women would go inside their rooms. After meeting only Mera and Mani, Baba descended the hill. The bell was rung a second time, and the other women could then come outside. Once the bell rang when Baba was coming up the hill, and Mansari, who was missing Baba terribly, came out to see him. Baba was annoyed and asked her, "Why did you come out?" Mansari pleaded, "I too have a heart, Baba. How can you expect me to bear not seeing you?" "Let your heart go to hell," he said. "It's no heart if it doesn't follow my wish. Why do you call it a heart?" Baba continued scolding. "What have you gained by seeing me? You cannot see me. When you don't obey me, what is the use of seeing me? You will never be able to see me that way. If you want to see me, follow my behests. Do you hope to see me by incurring my wrath? That seeing is not seeing. Try to please me, and one day you will really see me." Mansari became a close disciple of Avatar Meherabad, and she's especially known for living on Meherabad Hill as caretaker of Meherabad's Samadhi. Baba instructed her never to leave Upper Meherabad except for her medical needs. This is part of the story behind her initial separation from the rest of the women mandali. Baba spelled out, "I will be very happy if you remain alone on Meherabad Hill." Mansari began crying and said, "I've come to stay with you, Baba. How could I remain alone?" Baba told her, "If you want to stay with me, you will have to stay according to my pleasure. If you cannot do that, then you will not be with me, although you may be with me physically. If you keep my pleasure by remaining at a distance, then you will truly be with me forever." Mansari wept bitterly, and Baba sharply stated, "You are mad. I'm not keeping you away from me. Even if you wanted to be away from me, I would not allow it." In 1949, preparations were being made for the phase called the New Life, which commenced on 16th October, 1949. When Baba discussed the matter of the New Life alternatives and its conditions with the women on Meherabad Hill, he declared on that first day, "None of you should suggest anything to me. None should ask me anything. My decision is final. No one will be allowed to stay here any longer." About 3 years earlier, Mansari had been pestering Baba about when he would live in Meherabad as he did before. And Baba had told her, "Instead of that, if you would say, 'Baba, go anywhere you like, I will stay in Meherabad. I will be more pleased.'" As for the New Life, Mansari knew she would not be chosen to go with Baba, since he had kept her at Meherabad apart from him all these years. Initially, Baba had arranged for Mansari to stay with her brother in Navsari. But as the New Life decisions were being finalized, one day Mansari gathered her courage and approached Baba saying, "Baba, if my promise is intact and you allow me, can I stay in Meherabad? You go anywhere. I'll stay in Meherabad." Then the earlier incident with Baba came into her mind, And he looked at her as if to say, after all this time, you've finally come around. And speaking to her directly, he said, don't think for a moment that because of your suggestion, I allow you to stay here. It was my wish, my plan. I wanted you to stay at Meherabad. You have pleased me today. However, the actual announcement that Baba would never be returning to Meherabad came as a traumatic blow to her. She said, I experienced total blackness in front of me. Baba was so stern, so serious. The new life was such a big shock. As Baba said now that he would be never coming back. Previously, he visited Meherabad regularly. Now, no one could stay in Meherabad. Even Padri had to hire a room in Nagar and would come to Meherabad with a snack to spend the day. Mansari began to cry and Baba embraced her. Look here, it is my order not to cry. When you cry, it pierces my heart. If you cry, it will spoil your health and my work. So don't cry. Though I am not going to come back, who knows, he added with a wink. One day I might drop by here. Baba embraced her again and gave her his hand to kiss. And during the new life, when word would come from Baba stating that he was definitely not coming back to Meherabad, these announcements only added to Mansari's conviction that indeed he would be returning one day. In August 1950, during the new life, Baba was in Satara when this incident happened on Meherabad Hill. This is a famous story of Mansari's. Again, years before, Baba had prepared her. One day he gave Mansari a stick for protection against robbers. But Mansari had said, Baba, the whole village reveres you. They would not dare to step into the ashram. Of course, she kept the stick he had given her. And on this night in August 1950, Mansari was lying on her bed thinking of Baba. During her sleep, a snake slithered in and crawled onto her chest. Baba had always warned her that when difficulties or emergencies arose, to repeat his name with all her heart. But she was frozen with fear, and for about 5 minutes could not say anything. Then, crying out Baba's name, she took the stick and knocked the cobra off the bed. When she saw it crawling up on the bed again, she repeated his name and she killed it with that stick. But the episode did not end there. Cobras abide in pairs. And the next night, when Mansari was praying in front of Baba's photo, its mate appeared. She bravely managed to kill that cobra too. Now, the amazing coincidence was that before all this happened, Baba had come in her dream one night and asked her, what would you do if a cobra came into your room? Mansari had replied, I would kill it. In the dream, Baba had encouraged her. Yes, don't be afraid. Kill it. I am with you. After she had killed both snakes, Baba again appeared in her dream and told her, I am quite pleased with your courage. no snakes will ever bother you again. And truly, henceforth, no snake entered Mansari's room. Although far away from Baba, many of his lovers and disciples had different experiences of his inner guidance. Mansari told me once that she was asked to take care of a dog, probably for extra protection, while staying on Meherabad Hill. And at first she said to Baba, "I didn't come here to be with a D-O-G. I came here to be with G-O-D." Eventually, she developed a soft spot for the animals and took in 3 more dogs. Baba said, "Okay, no more than 4." And periodically, he'd ask her how many dogs she had. One day she replied, "5, Baba." He looked angry, and she said, "Do you want to know the names?" He nodded, and so she named all the dogs, including the 5th one, named Mansari. He chuckled, and she said, "I take care of 4 dogs. Can't you at least see to this one?" When I last saw her in 1994, I noted in my diary that all 4 of her dogs escorted my daughter Shireen and I all the way down the hill to the railroad tracks. Mansari was called Little Chili, Mirchi, by Baba because she had a hot temper. He said, "I must correct your temper in a big way, like the change from sky to earth, or I won't let you be with me the next time I come down." And Mansari said, "Oh, you won't let me be with you? I don't mind. I'll just catch hold of your daman when you're coming down and use it as a parachute." He smiled and laughed and then said, "Seriously, you must correct your temper." And she said, "Yes, Baba." She would often tell us, Baba is like our parents and we are his kids. So Mansari would often call us Kids Baba. And she would often emphasize the importance of saying his name, asking the children who came to visit if they'd said their fivers in the morning and at night before bed. This was her way of helping children develop the habit of remembering Baba when they woke up and they went to sleep, saying Baba's name 5 times. And she's often quoted saying, "Name plays the game, major, minor, and final." Mansari's final day fell on Duni Day, January 12th, 1997. She died shortly after Arti that morning. James Cox writes, "Her rose-covered body was carried out of her room at about 3:30 p.m., when the Meherabad Mandali arrived. She was placed next to Baba's Gadi, the reclining chair on which he used to sit outside her room under the tin shed. Arti was performed then, and about 4:30, she was carried down the hill on a stretcher with dozens of old and new friends taking turns carrying the stretcher shoulder high. 2,000 roses were brought and placed throughout the wood pyre. The fire was lit around 5 p.m., just as carloads of her friends and relatives arrived from Mumbai. End quote. Paraphrasing Nashwan Ansar, Mansari had been the keeper of the flame on Meherabad Hill. She taught many seekers, young and old, home truths in her simple, inimitable way. But her greatest gift was her emphasis on repeating Baba's name. And you remember Kekabad, the man who first brought her and her family to Meherabad 70 years before, by Baba's order, repeated Baba's name silently 100,000 times a day. Jai Baba. Now in the iMovie that we'll show next, there's a sketch that Baba made of himself in Mansari on a torn sheet of paper. I'm grateful to Tony Zoyce, who collected many of the images on his website that I used. And he is pictured kneeling next to Mansari. The 2-year-old, Sophie Ernst, is seen serving Mansari tea in her kitchen. And there's a lovely story about pig chutney that goes along with that. And I'm in a red blouse talking with Mansari in 1979. This movie was set to music written by Kristen Keeler in 1980 on her first visit to Meherabad. She and her husband sing this original song entitled Sneaky Sweetie, after the name Mansari gave Baba. And Charlie plays the tune on his banjo. Take it away, Ruth.
Jay Baba, that was so beautiful. So many comments in the chat about what an amazing job you've done. Thank you for that gorgeous bio.
Thank you.
All right, we'll go ahead with the iMovie. Thank you, Susan.
Oh, my pleasure.
One, two, three. You are the sneaky sweetie, the thief who stole my heart. Sometimes you walk so close, you hold my hand so tight. Other times you're tricky, hiding out of sight. But when we lose our grasp and begin to fall, you catch us from behind, your love embracing all. You are the sneaky sweetie, the thief who stole my heart. I used to think my heart belonged to me. I used to think my life was free. You snuck in and you changed it all while I slept. Now what I thought was freedom, I'll be glad to forget. For you are my sneaky sweetie, the thief who stole my heart. For you are the sneaky sweetie, the thief who stole my heart. Sometimes you walk so close, you hold my hand so tight. Other times you're tricky, hiding out of sight. But when we lose our grasp and begin to fall, you catch us from behind, your love embracing all. You are the sneaky sweetie, the thief who stole my heart. I used to think my path was mine. I used to think my plans were fine. You snuck in and changed all the roads while I was asleep. Sometimes I rejoice and sometimes I weep, but I love you, my sneaky sweetie, the thief who stole my heart. Oh, you are the sneaky sweetie, the thief who stole my heart. Sometimes you walk so close, you hold my hand so tight. Other times you're tricky, hiding out of sight. But when we lose our grasp and begin to fall, you catch us from behind your love, embracing all. Oh, you are my sneaky sweetie, the thief who stole my heart. I used to think that God could wait. I used to think my thoughts were so great. You snuck in and you muddled them while I was asleep. And now there's not a thought that I would like to keep from you. Oh, my sneaky sweetie, the thief who stole my heart. You are the sneaky sweetie, the thief who stole my heart. Sometimes you walk so close, you hold my hand so tight. Other times you're tricky, hiding out of sight. But when we lose our grasp and begin to fall, you catch us from behind your love, embracing all. Oh, you are the sneaky sweetie, the thief who stole my heart. Well, I wonder what you got up your sleeve. I won't mind if you never leave. I'm turning it all over to you, this poor heart. Now we'll be together, never, never apart. I love you, my sneaky sweetie, the thief who stole my heart. Oh, you are the sneaky sweetie, the thief who stole my heart. Sometimes you walk so close, you hold my hand so tight. Other times you're tricky, hiding out of sight. But when we lose our grasp and begin to fall, you catch us from behind your love, embracing all. You are the sneaky sweetie, the thief who stole my heart. Yes, you are the sneaky sweetie, the thief who stole my heart.
Jay Baba, that was great. All right. I'm going to open it up now for people to chat and also to share digitally with us. You raise your hand, Alt Y on the PC option, yeah, Alt Y on the PC, Option Y on a Mac. You can also find a raise hand option under participants, and you can also look for a reaction button. Some computers are now using reaction buttons. So we have hands up already and we'll get started, but just feel free to at any point share. I've also put it in the chat on how to raise your hand. So I don't want to have to pick on people out of, just randomly. So come on and let's share about Mansari. We all have memories. Mihail, you're first.
Okay.
Hey, Baba.
Hey, Baba. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone here. I've been thinking of Mansari close to what is going to happen today. And she grows on one. She's not a regular kind of Mandali. She's different from everyone, being alone and so brave, being on the hill. And so, wow, she was something. So actually, I have one of the greatest memory that I have with her is this. I just came to Meherabad after knowing about Baba for two months. And I didn't know about anyone else, nothing, hardly anything. And I didn't know I was coming to Baba, just being Baba's fully at that time. And so I came up to the Samadhi, and Nana was there, of course, all the time. And Mansari was not there all the time. So in one of the days, very close to when I came, and I was going to go into the Samadhi, there comes in front of me this very old and little tiny lady. She's all full of joy, and she's coming towards me. And I have a great connection with kids all my life. I just wanted to take her in my arms and to pick her up like a child, because that's how she looked and that's her size. And that is the greatest, one of the greatest moments that I have with Mansari, is this great joy that was coming in this meeting, and that I wanted to just scoop her up and pick her up. And I'm glad I didn't do that, because I don't do that with that age of persons. And I didn't know who she was. So I was thinking today, I believe that Baba came with all his mandali. I don't think he just looked for them here in this world. I think he chose them before he came, and they all volunteered to come with him. So he brought here, what a beautiful host of people and souls, different kind, every one of them. And Mansari was very, very different and very, very independent in her thoughts. She was not a regular mandali, and being around her is growing on me more and more over the years. So this is one of the memories I wanted to share. Jai Baba Mansari, you are something. I love it. And I love coming to your shrine and cleaning it in the morning. And I appreciate you being with Baba and being with us on the hill alone. A woman so little alone on the hill with all those two kaikobots, three kaikobots women who were next to her also, two of his daughters and his wife. That was just an amazing story of these women up on the hill. Over the Tao, Mel Baba, Ki Jai, Jai Baba.
Jai Baba, Mihail. Thank you so much. You really brought it. I got the vision. Carol Werner, good morning.
Good morning, Susan. So beautiful. Two parts here. Susan, just wanted to ask again, what year did Baba have Mansari staying on Meherabad Hill? And Susan, you're muted.
Here, let me look at my notes. Let's see.
Perhaps I can help out. It's Judy.
Oh, good.
Mansari, as Susan shared with us, joined Baba at, I guess I can, if I'm bothering to talk, you can see me not quite ready for prime time. In 1938, she joined Baba and went on the Blue Bus tours. And basically from 38 until the 12th of January in 97, when she passed. And even now, she remains on Meherabad Hill.
That's right. It was the 15th of June, 1938.
38. Thank you so much.
And she never actually left the hill, except one time she went down the hill and crossed the railroad tracks before Baba had given the order. And from that time, Baba gave the order that she should not cross the railroad tracks except, as Susan mentioned, for her own medical, to take herself to the doctor or to take her dogs to the vet. Those were the only two.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you all for that. And just want to recollect something that, is also a well-known and beloved experience probably for most of us, is to have tea with Mansari, and she's sharing her new life story. And you know, when I was first hearing that, it had a certain impact. But then, you know, as we grow deeper in life with Baba, then all of these things that we heard from the Mandali and these exchanges with Baba come alive inside of us in a particular way. And this one does for me, where Baba, you know, told Mansari to never expect to see him again. And then he would send out the New Life circulars, right? And it would say, you know, whatever it would say, and at the bottom would be a line that says, and tell Mansari to, if she has any hope of ever seeing me again, she should rub it out. And, you know, all her gestures and, um, you know, just the reliving that, you know, and how could she bear that? And, I just think, you know, what was it for her, you know, to for Baba to make it so perfectly clear she'd never see him again, and then, and then, and then she did. So that just blows me away, you know, that she and Baba had this dance. This was their dance. Baba had these different dances with different individuals, and the dance he had with Mansari was fierce and so loving. So thank you, Baba, and thank you, Mansari, and thank you, Susan, for this extraordinary
You're welcome.
time with her. Thank you. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
Jai
Please, if
Baba.
I may, I just kept saying to Susan how beautiful her whole presentation was. Please, I was so excited about sharing that I forgot to tell you.
Oh,
So,
thank
Susan,
you.
it was just amazing, amazing, and you're so beautiful in saying all these things. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Ron Greenstein. Go ahead and unmute.
That me?
Yeah,
Oh, good. Thanks.
trying to find you here.
Thank you, Susan, for that wonderful story and remembrance of the idea to remember Mansari, who I guess for most pilgrims to India during the times when the Mandali were so present, uh, different of the Mandali kind of connected with people, I suppose. Definitely Mansari was right up there for me. And I don't know the way other people felt about the kind of relationship or connection people had with Mansari, but I was just thinking about it, and mine was sort of like feeling like pals, even though she was older than both of my parents. You know, I didn't get that type of parental relationship. It was more like she enjoyed the fact that I was a professional cook when she first met me, and because she liked cooking, and you know, she showed me how she made fried plastic. As everybody, if anybody remembers what she made, fried plastic. So we had that in common, and of course, she would be at the Arties. And the first time I went to India in '73, I didn't take my guitar, but in '79 I did, and I would sang some songs. I actually sang some songs in '73 too, as a performance, command performance for Mansari, and we had fun with that. So, but one of the songs that I sang when I came back in '92, what is that, 13 years later, she saw me and recognized me and said, "Glue," and which was the name of the song, one of the songs that she particularly enjoyed. And I was just blown away by the fact that she remembered me, but you know, and recognized me, and was able to remember the name of the song and all that. That was touching. So two things I want to say. One is that in '73, a group of us, including Daryl Smith, went to Meherabad village in Hamirpur, and we spent 5 days there. And we met the man who was the caretaker of Baba's cabin that has been built at Meherabad village, which is where Baba proclaimed that he was the avatar publicly for the first time in 54. So his name was Mukund. And let's see, his brother is more known as Keshav Nigam. So he was Keshav Nigam's brother. And if you might know his story, which was that he had a skin ailment. This is tying into Mansari's skin ailment. And this was the one that he had was like made him into somebody who nobody would even get near, because not only did he look terrible, but he also smelled bad. And it was like, I don't know, maybe somebody said it was leprosy, but maybe it wasn't. I don't think it was leprosy. I think it was something else. But nevertheless, Keshav asked Baba to do something, if he could do anything for his brother, who was this outcast of the village. And Baba said, remind me when I come to the village. And so he did. And Mukund came before Baba. And my recollection from hearing it from Keshav when we were there in 73 was that Baba had told him to eat this apple and say that through this apple, I will be cured. And then also on top of that, Baba asked Mukund to say his name some number of times each day and all that, and just remember Baba. That was it. And so it went on like that for a number of months. And on the day of the beginning of the fiery free life, I believe it was, that morning when he woke up, his skin ailment was completely gone. And it had been, there hadn't been any notice that it was going away or anything. It was just gone. And the way it ties in with Mansari, besides they're both being these caretakers for Baba's special places, is that if you remember, Mansari had a glorious complexion. I mean, her complexion was like a young person. It was, she had beautiful skin on her face. And one of the things I noticed about Mukund was this man was he had white hair and a white beard, but he was a handsome guy and his skin was perfect. And so I don't know, it's just something that was a nice little thing to recognize at the time. And then I don't know if anybody else will mention this, but one fun story that Mansari used to tell, this is the last thing I'll say, is that once Baba called Mansari into a meeting he was having with some men. And of course, she obeyed Baba's instruction to come in. He had her stand in front of all the men, and there was some ice cream there. And Baba said, open your mouth. And Baba took a spoonful of ice cream, and he flipped it in, and it went right into her mouth. You're excused. So just an odd little tidbit there about Mansari's experiences with Baba. So thanks for letting me share. Jai Baba to you all.
Jai Baba Ron, thank you. Would you mind reminding us about the fried plastic?
Oh yeah, fried plastic. Fried plastic is dried. She would cook tapioca, and then she would lay it out on the ground, not directly on the ground, on some kind of paper or something, whatever she laid it out on, I can't remember, and dried it in the sun. Then she deep fried it, and it would explode into what looked like styrofoam. So she called it fried plastic. Or somebody called it fried plastic. That's what she called it.
It was delicious, I remember. Thanks, Ron. All right. So we have Miss Chitra.
Hi, I first met Mansari in 1977, I think. And at the time I was pregnant, first trimester pregnant with Huma. But I loved Mansari and followed her around, and she let me clean the tomb with her. And that was when there wasn't a big formal thing, when you could just go with Mansari to clean the tomb. And one of the sweet stories was she we did all the cleaning and everything, and we were putting down the cloth and then flowers. And then she said, she looked around because it was just the two of us, and she said, "Shh, don't tell anybody." And then she got a little bottle of scent, and I think it was honeysuckle actually, um, and she put it on her hand and rubbed it around the edge of the stone there, and said, and she said, Baba has his own fragrance, I know, but this just helps. But don't tell anybody. So then she would put it in her little pocket, and she even, she was just enough of a sneaky sweetie herself, that one time Gil and I came up and we wanted to do a little wedding ceremony, and she let us do it, and she locked us in the tomb. She didn't lock us? We closed the door. Sorry, I'm too excited. But she let us do that, and then come out, and then the last thing was, because I was pregnant at the time, I couldn't really eat much in India. I was very, very nauseous. So one time we were standing inside the samadhi for arti and prayers, and everyone crowded in, like that. And at one point I just went poo and fainted out cold. I just passed out. And then ever since after that, every trip I took while she was alive, she never let me stand during arti. I wouldn't be pregnant anymore, years later, she would still say, you squat, and so I didn't sit, so I'd have to squat all the way through RT. So those were some of the memories, many memories with it. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba. Chitra, I just know you're such an amazing cook. Are there any thoughts or memories of Mansari's kitchen and cooking or recipes?
Well, no, because she always wanted me to drink chai, and I would never drink the chai. so she was a little chagrined about that, but finally I learned the trick. She would serve me chai and serve Gil chai, and I'd sit there with my cup, and as soon as she turned around, Gil would drink mine and give me his or he'd drink his, give me his empty cup, and I'd give him my full cup. But no, I don't have cooking story memories.
All right. Well, I just wondered. I'm sure there are some. I'm
Yeah.
just waiting patiently.
Yeah.
Jai Baba, Chitra.
Jai
Thank you so
Baba.
much. Judy, thank you for jumping in earlier. Do you want to unmute?
I thought I was. I guess I muted and unmuted and did it
There
again.
you are. Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, dear Mansari. And for me, Mansari comes into my heart life primarily at the beginning of the 90s when I became a resident at Meherabad. And it says my speaker is not working. Can you hear me? Ruth, you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. You're breaking up a little bit. It's not a great connection.
Well, sorry,
Oh, it's better.
the best we've got at the moment. At any rate, I had many great good fortunes from Baba, and one of the sweetest, of course, was being able to have samadhi duty. And for the first 2 or 3 years, 4 years or something, my shift was from 5 to 6 in the evening. And so I would be up the hill, and I would have just gotten off duty at 6 o'clock. And then RT was going to be at 7. So in those days, as many of you remember, I'm sure, there were 2 wonderful options on the hill between 6 and 7 in the evening. One was Nanakare, holding, as one pilgrim said, Baba's Love Fest in the library from 6 to 7. and spewing out loving love itself in the form of stories. And the other was Mansari's Kitchen. And I was most drawn to Mansari's Kitchen and was, as she said, one of her regulars. And Mansari's Kitchen was so wonderful because all the pilgrims from Bombay that were with Baba in the 30s and the 40s and the 50s or the 60s would come into Mansari's Kitchen and share and tell their stories to Mansari and all of us, whoever happened to be there. And I particularly remember during that period, the folks I called just myself. I didn't speak to them in this language, my 3 Baba babies. And those were Roshan Karawala, Nachu Kotwal, and Sridhar's wife, Parveez, who had literally, they all grew up on Baba's lap. You know, they were, Roshan at 3 years old met Baba first at the Rahuri cabin where it is now in Meherabad, sitting on his lap at 3. And so they had all of these wonderful stories and so many other longtime Baba lovers. So that was one of the atmospheres that Mansari's presence in her little sling chair there in the kitchen offered. But then time passed, and it was, money had passed in 96, of course, August 19th. And it, for some weeks, the time of her internment had not been announced, had not been decided. And so I was back in the West on a break and coming back in September. And actually, Jeff Wolverton and I made arrangements. He was flying through from Myrtle Beach through the Atlantic, and I flew from Seattle through the Pacific side, and we met in Bombay and had a vehicle and by then, I think Dr. Ann had alerted me that Mansari's, because it was September 7th that we arrived. And so we got our vehicle to drive through the night to get to Meherabad because Mani's internment was going to be the morning of the 8th. And actually, as our vehicle came to the road where you turn off that comes to Meherabad, right in front of us from the opposite direction, the Mandali's car and the Mandali that were carrying Mani's ashes in it we followed it up to Baba's Samadhi, and they took Mani's ashes and placed them on, right on the gray slab next to the marble inside the Samadhi. And that actually, I believe, I'm not quite sure on the timing. I remember following the car and getting there. And if this was the morning of the 8th, I met with Dr. Ann, and she said, "Judy, you have one job today." I worked as, among other things, as Dr. Ann's assistant. She said, "Your job is to escort Mansari from her room, which was the kitchen that I think all of you know, to the Samadhi." And actually, for almost a year up to that time, Mansari was referring to that walk from the ashram kitchen to the Samadhi as climbing Mount Everest. It had become harder and harder for her to make that walk. And so I, took her arm and physically helped her very slowly. It was a very long walk that day to the Samadhi for the internment of Mani's ashes. Mansari stayed for that very special occasion, and I walked her back even more slowly to the kitchen. And that was her last trip on September 8th of 1996 was her last journey to Baba's Samadhi. She was still able to putter around in the kitchen and feed her dogs for the next few weeks. And at that time, Dr. Ann and I would accompany Dr. Ann as she did her evening rounds, which at that time were Mansari, Gulu, and Jalu. The two, it was mentioned that that two daughters of Kekopad and his wife were up there since the new life, but also his oldest daughter, Mera, before she died. So all three daughters of Kekopad and his wife were up the hill along with Mansari during the new life. But at this point, only Gulu and Jalu, the two number 2 and 3 daughters, were there. And one night, and this will give you, I'm going to share this story because it gives you a sense of really the atmosphere in which Mansari lived, that we all saw the joy of her love for Baba when we were in the kitchen and so forth. But at any rate, one night, I think in very early November or late September, Anne said to me, and it was about 8:30. It was after the Samadhi had closed and so forth. And she said, Judy, you need to spend the night here. I need to have you spend the night with Mansari. It's not safe for her to be alone. And I said, sure. And she said, but it's too late. We can't get a cot up here for you. You're going to have to sleep on the floor. And we can't get a mosquito net. And I said, sure, whatever's needed. And that night, I'd been really good friends with Mansari for many years by then. But I became not such a good friend from her perspective because
Judy, we lost you, honey. We lost you right now. I think you've just lost your internet. Do you want to, we'll have you come back in a
they
little
sort of
while.
made that into a museum. Because that's where that was Mera's kitchen, where she would prepare Baba's food. But that became Mansari's bedroom for all those years from 49 on. And she had a little cot in there and so forth. And she argued and argued with me that I was not to stay, and I had doctor's orders that I was to stay. And she growled a lot and locked the door from the inside. So I could, so she was inside. Anyway, I stayed outside, much to her displeasure. And And to give you, so when everything seemed okay until I turned the lights off. And then the orchestra began. There were the string section, which was the Mosquitoes. And, but then there was the percussion section, which I didn't quite know what they were, but at the time, but I had my orders, which, you know,
Ruthie, you are muted.
Yeah, I'm just afraid we've lost Judy. Thank you. All right. Well, we'll catch up with that story. But right now, Shelley, if you'd like to share.
Hi, Jay Baba. Thank you, Judy. If you can hear me, great stories. Love them. I have so many memories of Mansari, but I'm just going to share a few. I spent a lot of time with her. I first came to India in 1975, and she would call us all kids of Baba, and I really was. I had only just left my teens. And I remember meeting her for the first time. And if there's anyone here who hasn't met Mansari, I'm only 5'2", but I towered over her. And it was so comforting to be taller than somebody. But then I met the other women and they were all around my size, so that was great. But anyway, I have so many memories of being in her kitchen and tomb duty in the morning and arti in the morning and cleaning the tomb in the morning, because I always wanted to be there to clean the tomb. And in those days, there'd be maybe one other person, possibly two on a busy day. And there'd always be the perfume and the cleaning and then the arranging of the flowers. And oh gosh, that was just so wonderful to be able to put the flowers on the tomb for Baba. And spending a lot of time between morning and evening arti at the tomb. And invariably, Nana would say to me, would you like to do tomb duty? And I would say, are you kidding? Of course, I want to do tomb duty. And just to be able to sit there and be there at the tomb and to see people come in and out. And I thought that was such an amazing time. And then to be in Mansari's kitchen and hear all her stories and have tea with her. And if we were lucky, there would be those lovely tapioca crisps. And that was a real treat because there weren't treats then. You know, this is before there was even a pilgrim center. And her dogs, I loved the dogs, and the birds would fly in and out. And I thought, wow, this is great, birds coming in and out, because I love birds. And just those wonderful memories of being with her. And she was probably, of all the Mandali, the one that I corresponded with the most. And yeah, and she would always address the letter as dear kiddo Baba. And and yeah, I did correspond with her a fair amount, and I just loved her so much. And I did get to spend the most time with her. And probably because of that, had the deepest connection with Mansari because of all the time I got to spend with her. And I think I'm going to end it there. But thank you for listening to my ramblings. And yeah, Jai Baba to all.
Jai Baba, Shelley, they were heart ramblings. Thank you very much.
Jai Baba.
Jai Baba. Corinne? Oh, I'm sorry. Hold on, Corinne. It's actually Michelle and Marvin next. I will be on with you next, Corinne.
Did you get the email?
I got a picture. Let me see if I can share it.
There might be two different emails with two different pictures.
Let's see what we got here. Well, here's the one I got.
Yes. Did you get the other one?
I'll
Yeah.
take a look, but there she is with her dog.
Right. There's one other one that's really beautiful. Yeah, I was there in 1990, and she had a new batch of puppies, and this is the photo of her with her new puppy, and she asked me, I don't know if you can see it.
No, she's screen sharing, so no, she can't. She's looking.
Did you find the other photo?
No?
Anyhow, here, I'll show you the photo.
That's good.
Yeah, she has a brand new puppy in her hand,
Oh,
and she asked me to take a photograph of it and to share it with the Baba community, and I never did.
oh,
And here it is. Yeah,
oh, sweet.
just a little something that, after tea, she showed me her dogs. That's all. It was a wonderful experience.
I hear you. Beautiful puppy.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
when
glad
I
you-
was there, she gave me permission to shop. She says, "Oh, you must shop here. Very, very practical. Baba was practical, much cheaper." Very sweet.
And so did you?
I did, of course. I went to the bazaar. How can we not? Jay Baba.
Jay Baba, Mara gave me permission as well to go for it. They were making fun of me because I had so many clothes, so much clothing. The people I was with, they were like opening my cupboard and laughing because there was all this stuff in there. And then we saw Mara and she said, "Oh, no, no, that's great. You shop here and look beautiful for Baba."
So sweet. So sweet. Jay Baba.
Jay Baba.
Stories, everyone.
Miss Corinne.
Yes, gonna try show and tell with a couple of things here, if I can. I was in India for a 5-month stay when we were told that people were needed to be with Mansari around the clock. That would be the last 34, 35 days of her life. And I had just finished my medical residency, and out of my mouth came, "Okay, I'll take first shift. I'm used to getting up early." Oh, what did I say? But that meant that I got a lot of time with her in the morning when Dolly Dostuer was up getting her out of bed. I also got an afternoon shift there for a while. And during that time, Nanakar would come. Sometimes I would be fortunate enough to be there, and he would come to recite mystical poetry for her. And she, just, I can't recall her not having a lovely countenance on her face. And, but the two of them together doing that was wonderful. Here's a little archival something, if you can see. I didn't have good enough scissors up there at her place to cut the things that needed to be cut. And somehow I must have put this on my chit and got these scissors, which I brought home to remember my time by. And they have outlasted 2 other pair of high quality scissors. If you can find Shell brand in India, I highly recommend them. And does anybody remember or know where Penny Woolworth is now? This is a photo taken in '95 that she was sharing after Mansari passed. And there's so many lovely memories I have, as many of you do have, but I want to share something that Mansari would hand out, because she would hand out things. And this is from Baba to her uncle. Is it Sorabji Desai was her uncle that wrote the biography of Sadhguru Upasani Maharaj, approximately 1923. And with truth with a capital T, Baba said to him in this note, "May that truth which is unbounded be your guide and lead you to its infinite sovereignty and hold you to its own. When we are true, we enjoy true heavenly happiness, even if the whole world be up against us. But if falsehood be reigning in our heart, we find the very hell raging hot within us, with all its horrors therein, in spite of finding the whole world at our feet. Therefore, may truth and only truth be your guide, friend, and companion, is my blessing for you and yours. And so I thank you, Susan, for the work that went into putting together that narrative, that thread of the story of Mansari, so that we could all be here together and share our memories of her. So thank you so much, Susan.
Jai Baba. Thank you, Corinne, for sharing as well. Jerry Llewellyn, maybe you would show your face. You're up.
Only for you, Ruthie.
Yay. Hi.
Oh, Jai Baba. Wow, what a fabulous meeting. Thank you so much, Susan, for the inspiration. Thank you, Ruthie, for all the leadership. And God, thank you for bringing Baba in my home. Two things I want to remember, and it's everybody will remember these things, okay? It's everybody that had time with Mansari will remember this, I promise. So first of all, of course, she was the one that opened the tomb in the morning with Nana Care. And we would be there, of course, when we were there. And she would support the process. And all I can say is she was a real presence. And she encouraged us to sing. So all the singers know this, that she encouraged you to sing. And it wasn't about the sound. That's the thing that's incredible. She was all about the heart. It just sing for Baba from the heart. Sing for Baba from the heart. Over and over again, sing for Baba from the heart. And you remember that, right? You remember being with her, and you remember that she was so consistent over and over again, sing from the heart. I remember showing up sometimes. I might be the only person there. There was a trip or two in the early 70s where I was by myself for a little period of time, or very few people were there at Arti. And I would say something, typical, like, oh, I don't feel like singing, I'm sorry. And she would look at me like, what are you talking about? What does that have to do with anything? Sing for Baba, sing for Baba, sing for Baba from the heart, period, okay? So that's the one thing I take away for the rest of my life. Thank you, I'm sorry. And then sometimes after Arti, we would go to her kitchen, right? And we'd sit down there. There might be some of us, but this one day I was by myself. And quite honestly, being the hog that I am, I cherished those times more than anything. Being with her by myself was just heaven. Because I could ask her anything and we could banter and talk, and it was just fun. On this one occasion, though, have we talked about, Ruth, have we talked about where the term sneaky sweetie came from?
Well, Susan mentioned it, so tell your part.
Okay, if it's the same story, it's just what it is. Okay, so I'm there with her one day, and so she takes me into her bedroom, and she said, and she shows me standing at her nightstand this little clock. It's a clock, a blue clock, and it has inside the clock face, it's an old-fashioned circular face clock that sits right on the counter. And she shows me the face of the clock, and it has two little pictures of Baba, little bitty pictures of Baba, and it also has a signature of Baba in it. Okay, so this is her clock. She said, this is the clock that I wake up with every morning, she says. Okay, she says, but let me tell you the story of the clock. So the story of the clock is that Baba came in, to her area one day and walked into her bedroom, and casually walking around, he takes the clock without saying anything and puts it in his sadra, and starts walking out the door. And Mansari says, Baba, you stop and put my Baba back. And that was the context that she says. And from then on, I've called him Sneaky Sweetie. Okay. And I do want to say musically that song sung is the perfect representation of Mansari and Sneaky Sweetie. It was totally beautiful. And thank you so much. So that's all I have to say. And if I have the mechanics a little off on that, I'm sure that history will record it is still a good experience. So I hope everybody enjoys the rest of this presentation. I'm out. Bye. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. It's so good to see you. Give love to Carol Ann. Jai Baba. Oh, there you are. Jai Baba, Carol Ann. Jai Baba.
Sharing.
You're muted. He muted you.
Oh.
There you are, Jai Baba. You're muted again. Jer. Did you want to share something, Carol Ann?
Well, sure. I met Mansari in '96, and I didn't know what to say. I felt really awkward. I was there in her kitchen, and it was me and a couple of other people, probably my husband and daughter. And I had no idea what to say. And she just kept repeating. So she filled the silence with, "You are very fortunate. You are very fortunate." And she just kept repeating that over and over and over. And I'm very fortunate to be part of this community because I've been so nourished by all this sharing. Thank you.
Beautiful, Carol Ann. We are fortunate. Thanks for the reminder. Hope your daughter's well.
Thank you.
Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
Judy, did you want to, you're up if you want to finish your story?
Yes, I have no idea what happened. My whole system crashed. Sorry about that.
Not to worry.
I was about to, let's see, I think I turned off the lights, taking care of Mansari that very first night in '96. And the string section of all of the mosquitoes had started, and then the percussion section, which we learned the next 3 days when the next morning I said to Dr. Ann, we really have to do something about the rats. And it turned out that first night, and then for the next, it took the men 3 days to capture and relocate 29 large rats that I don't know if my hands are in the air, but the picture hasn't come up. They were at least a foot long for their bodies and another foot or two. They were huge, absolutely huge rats that Mansari had been living with in that kitchen where almost so many of us had the opportunity to have tea and so forth with Mansari. And they caught 29 of those rats in a period of 3 days, which made night duty a little easier. And Mansari, I managed to befriend her, and she stopped locking the door at night for her own safety. Thank you, Baba, for your intervention on that one. And so actually that began for me. I had a unique and incredibly blessed opportunity to do night duty for Mansari for what turned out to be the rest of her life, which was 3 or 3.5 months, something like that. And I also, we coordinated, and many of you may have participated. Dr. Ann and I decided that we wanted to give everyone that knew Mansari the opportunity to to do volunteer duty during the day. We would have 2 or 3 people, depending upon if somebody couldn't walk, because we needed to have somebody be able to run down the hill and find Dr. Ann if there was an emergency and so forth. And so I coordinated that toward, for that whole period at Dr. Ann's request. And during that time, actually, many of you probably know, some of you may not know, that when Baba left on the New Life, just before he left on the New Life, but he'd given Mansari permission to live there in the kitchen, he asked her what she'd like, can he offer her something before he leaves? And Mansari said, "There's one thing, Baba. There's one thing I want. Bring out your gadi and put it under the tin shed. I want to be able to go there to do darshan, for your darshan." And that it's at Mansari's request that we have, even to this day, even though it's becoming more fortified now, as it were, Baba's gadi is still there under the tin shed. But in addition to that, Baba gave Mansari a gift before he left, and that was a booklet of 900 couplets of Kabir, the great Indian poet and spiritual master. And Baba's name for Mansari, what he always called her, was Kabir Chela, which means disciple of Kabir, because she memorized, when Baba went on the New Life, all 900 of those couplets. And for the rest of her life, some of you were there long before me, but she, especially I noticed, as in her older years, she would recite those couplets again and again, that in English translation, and I think as well as in their original vernacular. But what was quite interesting, Anne and I found, was that as Baba began to bring Mansari into him, and she faded gradually over those months, away from this physical universe so much and into his heart. And we could tell how she was doing. She spoke almost nothing toward the end for some weeks, but she would recite daily different of those couplets from Kabir. And they were a barometer for us of how she was doing. And one in particular that I remember that she with such heart anguish would recite, and I've only captured a small line from it, but it's, "How can I find your lane? How can I find your lane? My way to your feet, my way to you." But she had the full couplet there. And Anne was wiser than me, and she's written some of those down, and dated and so forth, as we kept track. And then one day came when I mentioned she could still putter around the kitchen during the day, but wouldn't go out. And for some time, maybe, I'm not sure, a year before that, she, her duties, I'm not quite sure when she stopped, cleaning the samadhi or supervising the cleaning of it, and leading arti and so forth. But those were, now we're in sort of the final phase of her life. And one day she took off her slippers, her little slippers that she wore, and put them at an angle, like a 45-degree angle against the wall, which was her habit. And that was the last day that she got up and walked. And I have here my memento. Let's see. I don't know if you can see this. My video is very slow. There we are. This Prim McCaig did this drawing. He sat in the kitchen and just wanted to be near. Mansari was in her bed in her bedroom, but he wanted to be near her. And I remember at the end, I'm gonna speak more about the end in just a moment, but on this picture, I remember seeing him draw those, and this was a few weeks before she passed. And after she passed, he had his sketchbook with him up the hill, and I saw him, and I said, Prim, is there any way that I could get a Xerox of your sketch of Mansari's sandals? Because that was, for me, it marked, a stage in her passing. And good-hearted dear Prim just took the page, ripped out the picture, and this is his original drawing of it, which is I've taken it off my little altar wall to show you. And
Could you hold it up again, Judy?
Yeah, I sort of shake, so I think I'm not a very good holder. Can people see it? I don't even know if it's at the right height, because my video stuff is very slow apparently. There we are.
A little more.
Yeah, I'm there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's, to me, somehow that symbolizes Mansari and her simplicity and shuffling for God. And
really gorgeous. Thank you.
The days passed, and I got tireder and tireder, and because I was doing at first day duty as well as night duty, and it's like, that doesn't, Bauji tried that, and even he could barely do it, at any rate. And so we had quite a volunteer team that helped with Mansari. And then it was clear to both Anne and I that the night of the 11th of January was really critical. And so I stayed awake on duty in Mansari's bedroom sitting up on a very straight back chair. And Anne was able to nap a little bit on Mansari's sling chair in the other room. And as Baba would have it, we'd sort of, that had been the focus of our several months there. And we knew that we both needed to be very awake and very, that we could function well the next morning. And so at about 6:30, Anne went down the hill one direction, I went the other. And I think a little before 8 o'clock, someone pounded on my door. I was sound asleep. And Mansari passed when we, who had been keeping vigil all that time, we're both away. And Anne had explained to me on various other occasions with the mandali that happens so often, and I think not just with the mandali, but with regular folk too, that when they're, people they're particularly close to, somehow the person waits till that person has left. And there are definitely stories with other of the mandali that that this is the case. And so Dolly Dastur, of course, was very close to Mansari and had been, really caring about her, not just in these final days, but, for years. And it fell to her and my good fortune, she showed me the traditional way in Zoroastrian Parsi tradition that we prepared Mansari's body together to be, and wrapped her in, she had chosen a pink sari that she wanted to be cremated in. And of course, this was the 12th of January, and that, was mentioned that, Baba's, this was I'm sticking up my little finger straight in the air. That was Baba's sign for Mansari, the chili pepper, because of her temper. And why am I saying that? Chili pepper. Oh, I've lost my train on that one.
You were talking about the pink sari that she had picked to be cremated.
Yeah, and the fire. It was Dooney Day. That's the point. The fact that Mansari passed on Dooney Day was just so completely apt, because ever since she was on the hill and nobody, Baba went on the new life, Mansari would go to the edge of the hill and watch the Dooney. The trees were not well grown. They weren't very big. You could see all the way down to the Dooney platform at Lower Meherabad from the top of the hill in the 50s and 60s. And she would watch every time the Dooney be lit and so forth. And it was very important to her. And that whole fire element that she had so strongly. And as Susan read that, or shared with us, that that Mansari was cremated actually that very day on the 12th, and she had passed during, I think it was something like 7:10 in the morning during Arti that morning. And yeah, a great soul in a very small package. That obviously all of us here, she's captured all of our hearts in so many ways. And I just feel so blessed to have had such a special connection during that last period of her life. So,
thank you, Judy.
Jai Meher Baba.
Jai Baba, you were blessed. Thank you for sharing so much, so intimately with us from your heart.
You're welcome.
Chris Barker. Go
Jai
ahead.
Baba.
There you. Hi, Ann.
Hi. Mayor Baba gave Mansari the order that she was to repeat his name 500 times every day. And she said that was her very favorite time of the day, every day, was to be able to be alone and repeat that name. And he also gave her a method of counting, keeping count, like using her hands and making a count on every finger. So anyway, I just wanted to share that. Thank you.
Thanks, Ann. Chris, you have anything to add?
It's just so delightful seeing Mansari, because she only came up just an inch or two above my belly button. And but she was just so cute and sweet. And I didn't see the fiery part, but I just loved being around her. And then there was being at Arti, and in the middle of the solemn prayers or during the songs, hearing this ferocious dogfight break out 6 feet away from everybody there in the trying to think of Baba. And it happened more than once. Those dogs were something else. Loved them. And Mansari. Jai Baba.
Jay Baba, thanks for bringing the dogs in. Jeff Wolverton, good
Okay.
afternoon.
Can you hear me? So, yeah, I didn't realize it at the time. We would, in those early years, in the early 70s, we would stay in town and we'd come out and spend the day at Meherabad. And, that you kind of run out of food and get a little hungry and sleepy, and we'd sleep all over in different places. And, but Mansari started this, 3 o'clock. At 3 o'clock, you could go and get chai. So that was a very popular time to go in and sit around with Mansari, and you share all these lovely stories. An amazing thing that I didn't realize at the time, but I realize it now, but the women led such a secluded life apart from the world. They didn't know what was going on, especially. How could she relate to all of us? Like, a lot of us came out of the hippie era and everything, and she was right there with us. And some of you probably remember when she asked somebody, "Did you take LSD?" And they'd say, "Yeah, I've taken it." And she'd say, "Well, I took LSD." And then they'd be kind of shocked. And you say, "Yeah, I take it every day. Loved, supreme, divine," she would say. But there were wonderful, wonderful times. But here's one. Well, I'll just relate one thing. And some of you have heard this, but she heard that Denny Moore and I, we grew up together. And in junior high, we did gymnastics. And we could walk all over the place on our hands with our feet in the air. So we could walk upstairs and up and down places and everything. Well, she heard this, and I guess she also did a little gymnastics herself in growing up. And I'm sure she was really good because she was quite small. And so she got this idea that it never occurred to me, but I think this is 1972 or something like that. She wanted Danny and I to go into the tomb and take darshan on our hands. So, I mean, like, this is how informal it was, how much this appealed to a Westerner. So Danny and I got up on our hands under the portico. We're milling around there, and then Danny goes and steps over the threshold, maintaining his balance, and goes up. And we were so good, we could go all the way to the floor and up again while still maintaining our balance. Denny goes off to the side, and I come in there. I go over the threshold and go up and bow before Baba, and he goes out, and I go, and Mansari is out there the whole time, making sure no Easterners come up the hill, because this would really be a little bit sacrilegious, a little blasphemous. But oh, she was so thrilled. This is this is such a great moment. So that's how natural and homey and cozy it was. And that's, let's see if I can, I'll just say one other thing. I used to kind of play pranks on her. And one time, just before I left for India, this is probably back in the 70s, they had a great sale on these these Halloween masks. It was just after Halloween. And this is a ghoulish looking character with this white shock of hair. And I had kind of brought it, and on my way up to the tomb for the first time, it was actually in my pocket. I had somehow stuffed it in this jacket pocket. So I get up there, and there's just Mansari there. Now, Mansari is like a fearless person, and she sees me, and we greet, and I go in, and and take my, bow and take darshan for the first time on this trip. And while I'm bowing down, it occurs to me to put this thing on. Now, there are all sorts of stories about ghouls and giants coming out of the tomb. I mean, there's been a history of that. Padre has mentioned it. So, but anyway, I'm in there for a while and I put this mask on, and there's a guy in the corner, Larry Green. He thinks I hunch over like I'm an old man, and he starts to assist me out of this thing. And Mansari sees this guy, and normally you go, J Bob. She's going like this, J Baba, J Baba, J Baba, with her, sliding on the side of the building, and I keep moving toward her, closer. J Baba, J Baba, and then I rip it off. But I got her completely, you know. But anyway, those are some of the fun times that you could have around Mansari. How could somebody that, I mean, in the thing I realize is that because they were with Baba, they were so universal, they could tune in to us so easily. It wasn't like they had to get to know us. They were already at the place where you know everybody, you might say. And they had that universal quality and you just picked up where you left off with her. Anyway, Jay Baba.
Jeff, we're all shocked about you pranking anybody.
Yeah, no, I've never done it since.
Honestly, out of character, out of character.
You got to brighten things up a little bit.
It's great, great stories. Go ahead, Moped. I hate to do this to you, but I know you're there. I wonder if you had something you needed to share.
Thank you. I've enjoyed just listening to everybody so much. It's been a wonderful share. Way back in 1970 and 71, I believe we were there for Amar Tithi, and many times, of course, we spent a lot of time with Mansari up on the hill as a young teenager. I was so taken with her and her wonderful ways, her stories, her sharing with us of her times either with Baba or with the Mandli, and I was just mesmerized by her to so much extent. So nothing in particular to share, but just the atmosphere of being in her wonderful company and hearing all her lovely stories. So don't have anything in particular to share about her, but
well, I think the mesmerized says it all, doesn't it?
Yeah, I was just completely taken with her. Yes.
Beautiful.
She often scold us as children and, remind us to always think of Baba and keep him with us. And that I remember clearly. So, yeah, to just keep Baba with us always.
So beautiful.
Jai Baba.
Thank you for sharing.
Oh, sure.
Betty Lohman, I see your hand is up.
I just found a couple of photos on that I don't know if you can make me a co-host so I can share them.
Let me find you here, Miss Betty. Okay. Multi-pin. I don't see where I can. I don't know if Angela's around to do so.
She must not be, or she would have. It's okay.
I'll tell you what. Go ahead, Betty. Screen share.
Oh, really?
Quick.
Okay.
So I don't get in trouble.
Oh. Oh, all right. This is Mansari and my youngest daughter, Shireen. This is 1987. You can see Shireen was 7 when we were there. And then I have another one. Let me do this. Oopsie. Okay, I'll stop share. Go ahead. And this is me and Mansari. And you see, I'm 5'3". So there they are. And then I just happened to find this one in my computer. It's Bob. It's a photo that Bob Aaron sent out, and it's of his family. So it's a nice one. So I'll just share it here quickly. Okay, there you go. And some of you may know, I don't necessarily know all the folks in this one, but oopsie, sorry, let's make it bigger. Oh, I don't know how to do this. Okay, there we go. So that there's little Mansari with the kids. So those are the photos that I happened to find. And my little story with Mansari was, we were there in 1987. And we were there for 6 weeks. So it got kind of long for the kids to figure out what to do. And so every day we would make the rounds of the dogs. We'd walk first to Jal and Dolly's and visit. They had 3 puppies. And then we'd head up to Mansari's and they'd visit Mansari's dog. She had a little white Pomeranian named Manzil, kind of a lap dog that we'd sit and it got to be, she was just like, it got to be very sort of normal and natural every day. She'd expect us to show up and we'd hang out. It was very like Auntie Mansari, kind of the kids. That's all. It was about dogs for us. Okay, Jai Baba.
Jai Baba, dog lover. Thank you. Wayne Meyer. Jai Baba.
Wait a minute. I'm trying to unmute.
You're unmuted. Now you're muted.
Now can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. I just wanted to mention a woman named Deo and her memory. She was a servant, a worker from Arrangown who was with Mansari for years and years and years, certainly from the 70s and well into the 80s. She had a wonderful presence. She would walk up from the village every morning, and many of us remember her. She probably spent more time with Mansari in those years than anyone. And so she was there a long time, 70s and 80s for sure. And then one small story, in tea one afternoon, this was in the late 70s, I think, there were several of us there with tea, and another pilgrim, a young man, I think he was from Boston, I'm not sure. And he was there for a couple of months. So Mansari was asking him about his parents. And there was some kind of he kind of rolled his eyes or something. I don't really quite remember. But what it led to is Mansari was concerned that his mother, especially, was worried about him being in India. And she extracted a promise from him then and there. You write your mother a letter every single week while you're here. And he promised to do that. So that struck me as a very honorable thing and a lovely thing and very typical of Mansari. And I remember the birds and the dogs, and I remember Manzil Betty very well. And thank you very much. Jai Baba.
Beautiful. Thank you, Wayne. Karen Talbot. Jai Baba.
Hey, Baba. I just have enjoyed this so much because it's brought back so many memories and things I hadn't thought about. But I wanted to just quickly share something that occurred. I think it was 1977, but it could have been 76. And it was Silence Day on the Hill. And Mansari, who would always have tea for us, which everyone mentioned at 3 p.m., had it for us all on Silence Day. She had set up, or someone had set up all the chairs. There were chairs going out of her kitchen outside, and we all came and sat down, and she came and poured chai for us. So Jai Baba, everyone.
Jai Baba, Karen, that's beautiful. I love that kitchen. I'm just going to see, I think Kathy Riley is here. And I didn't know if she had something she might like to say. I'm looking to see. Kathy, are you here? No, she may have gone.
Ruthie,
Yep.
you asked earlier about food stories, and I have a tiny one.
Okay.
And that is that during the 90s, what Mansari would fix every day were these little tiny, we call them muffins, like almost mini muffins. And that was for, throughout the 90s, pretty much the only thing that Mansari ate. But she made so many that if you came over for 3 o'clock tea, you definitely got one of her muffins. And so she was very, I think as everyone that knew her, very generous with offering her muffins and so forth. But that was the one thing, and I think it was made of millet primarily, but she'd make the dough in the morning and cook them as opposed to the flat plastic that we heard about in earlier years. But the 90s were the biscuits, as I remember, the little muffins, and they were very delicious, and they had a unique flavor, unlike anything else I've tasted, but very, very delicious. And she lived on those. I mean, I'm not sure she got any other protein or anything besides those for years.
Thank you, Judy. I can almost taste them now. I just wondered, Anahita, to store. Anahita, do you have something that you might want to share? I'm just looking for you. Are you with us?
You talking to me?
Yes, I am. Do you have a story?
No, I never had the fortune of meeting Mansari. My first visit to Meherabad was in the early, in 2001, 2002, sometime then.
All right, thank you. I just was thinking of you. Thank you. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
Robin Vogel. Jai Baba.
I only met Mansari in 1981 and didn't spend a lot of time with her. I have a little picture of us. Can you see? And she's so little. And I just remember she said to me, "Is it okay if I ask you a question?" I said, "Sure." She said, "Are you a Parsi?" And I said, "No." I didn't know why she asked me that until that weekend when a whole bunch of Parsis came to Meherabad and they looked just like my grandparents. So I didn't know, but I guess I look like a Parsi. Anyway, it was just so sweet to meet her and, be in her little abode. And that's it. Thanks.
Beautiful.
Robin, will you hold that picture up again, please? Oh, wow. Thank you.
Jai Baba. Daryl, did you want to share something?
Yeah, I just am prompted to say that I was reminded that Mansari I did have the pleasure of Mansari getting upset with me because she was starting to talk to me, but it was, I guess, in some other language because Parsi or something, Farsi or whatever, but she thought I was Iranian. And she was a little annoyed that I wasn't responding to her. So, but it wasn't terrible. And, certainly my overriding impression is just how delightful she always was. And gee, she's so small. And that kitchen, I couldn't get over how she could cook in such a primitive kitchen,
Yeah.
And then I also remember how she did teach us to say Baba's name, counting out, I guess it's 500, I forget how many, but using each knuckle to kind of keep track. So you could go through your whole hand, you get 500. Shaw Butler and I were there learning that. And Ron Greenstein, it was great to see you remember about getting up to the northern part of India. So Again, the other thing I thought it might be really great at the end of this to show that film again. It's just about 5 minutes. I'm sure people would love that at some point. Just wanted to make a suggestion.
Well,
It's
that's
been
great.
wonderful to hear these stories. So thank you, everyone.
Yeah, we have until about 5 minutes to 2, so we'll probably be able to squeeze it in. Thanks, Daryl, for the suggestion. Yeah. And Mahu.
Yes, good morning.
Hey.
10 o'clock here. Jay Baba. I met Mansari in my first trip to India, 1996, during Mani's internation. And Mernush, most of you might know, she lives in Merthyr Beach. She was my guide that day. Baba arranged it so well for her to be there, so she was touring me around. We went to, one day after Samadhi visit, we went to Mansari and her kitchen. She was making food. The very memorable thing I remember is when we entered, we started talking to her. She completely ignored me. And she, it's just, she completely, and she kept on asking about Shirin Vahidi, which is Mernush's mother. She said, oh, Shirin Vahidi, Shirin Vahidi, Shirin Vahidi means where is she, So that was an interesting interaction with her. And that was it. And the thing about it, it didn't bother me at all. I felt like, okay, Baba is greeting me differently now, like that. Say Baba.
Yeah, what a great story. Thank you, Mahu. I could picture that happening to me. That's beautiful. I just wondered, Hetty, I'm picking on Hetty right now because I wondered if you had anything. I see Kathy's back too, but
Sure. Am I here?
yeah, you're here.
Okay. I have several memories of Mansari. I just loved being with her. And a couple of them involve my son, who adored her as much as anyone could have. We started taking him there when he was young. I think he was 7 the first time that we took him. And he was exploring all at the top of the hill. He was 7, little boy, he couldn't stay still. So I would be in Mansari's kitchen visiting and he would be out exploring. So one day I was in the kitchen with Mansari and there were some rather elegant women from Bombay there that I didn't know, visiting with Mansari as well. And Nick came blasting into the kitchen, yelling and saying, Mom, you've got to come with me. You got to come with me right now. And I said, Nick, be quiet, sit down. And he just could not be contained. And I don't remember exactly what Mansari said, but it was like, you need to go with him. This is important. So I thought, okay. So I went with him. It turned out he had been in Baba's cabin. He had been lying on the floor beside the stretcher. And he had looked under the stretcher, which you could still do at that time. And there was a knot hole in the baseboard of the wall that had Baba's face in the knot hole. And he had discovered it. And so I had to go see it. So I went back and told Mansari, and she was so thrilled. Another incident I remember with Nick and Mansari was we were there. I think this time he may have been 11. And we went into Mansari's and Nick was completely dumbfounded. He said, Mansari, I'm taller than you are. And Mansari said, oh yes. She told him she was shrinking. And she said, I'll keep getting smaller and smaller. And one day you'll come and you'll say, Mansari, Mansari, and you won't be able to find me, but I'll be here hiding in a little corner somewhere. So whenever he would go there, he would know that she was there, even after she wasn't apparently there anymore. One other memory that's a little bit more bittersweet is when I was pregnant with Nick, my husband and I went to India. And Mansari gave us a tomb cover that Jal Dastur's mother had hand embroidered. And it was a very special treasure, of course. And it was sort of like a gift to us as a new couple and as a baby gift. It was special. And I remember she told us to keep it in a wooden box, which I know any archivists out there are going to kill me, but I still keep it in the special wooden box I had made for it. And when Stephen and I separated, I went to India. And of course, both of us wanted that tomb cover. And so I went to Mansari and I told her we were separating, and I asked her who should get the tomb cover. And she said, "Who came to Baba first?" And I said, "I did." She said, "You take the tomb cover." And I was thrilled that I could have the tomb cover, but I felt really sorry for Stephen. And so I said, "Well, Mansari, will you give me a tomb cover to take back for Stephen?" And she said very sharply, she said, "No, absolutely not." She said, "I'll give him a tomb cover when he comes to India." And he never went to India again. So that was an interesting thing. It was almost like she had foresight, the way that she said it so sharply. "No, I won't." So those are some of my prime. And thinking of her dogs, of course, there were so many over the years, but one I was particularly fond of was named Moti. The dog was all white. And Mansari told me that Moti meant pearl in whatever language it was. And that was why the dog was named Moti. So those are just a few little glimpses.
Thank you, Hetty. Beautiful glimpses. Yeah, I think of Rumi and his love dogs that no one knows the name of, and you should give your heart to be one of them. Rosalie. Jay Baba.
Yay, Baba. I had wonderful times with Mansari. And I just found this that I changed the words to the song. In Upper Meherabad, where lovers take samad, I first set me eyes on the wee Mansari. As she stirred in her kitchen, all lovers bewitching, crying Jai Baba, Meher Baba ki Jai. She could not be younger, she's Baba's love monger. Her love overflows to wrong sides of the track. Her grand heart air dancing, in divine romancing, Baba's Mira Ansari, till a beloved Baba.
Wow. You're so amazing.
Yeah, one time she liked to celebrate. You know, we celebrated Halloween, my first time there in '76, and we had put on this play at Meherabad. It was sort of about yogis, and it involved a dog, and these three yogis were sitting there, and the one thing, well, I was the dog, and so I had a purple tail and purple ears, and then we performed it for Mansari. It was a special performance in the, in the water, the big building. And part of the thing was the yogis were sitting there through centuries. And part of it was, as a dog, I went by and peed on one of the yogis and then just went on. She said, Mansari said I was the perfect dog. And she hand fed me for Halloween because I was a perfect dog. She could be fun, but wow, she had this fiery side. And I had bought a skirt at Amrit's boutique, and it came, I think it showed my knees, and I was up there. I'd come up to the Samadhi, and Mansari saw me, and ooh, she her little walk went real, and then she looked at me like, you know, I remember she had this intensity when she was looking at Baba. She was like, she looked and she says, "How long you been with Baba?" I said, "I don't know, years." And she says, "And you dress like that?" And then she just kept walking. So I had to go down the hill and just put something else on. Anyway, she was a spitfire. And then, this is my first time in India, she stopped talking to me. And before she was real friendly, and then she stopped talking to me. And if I say Mansari, because I was used to being friendly with her, and she'd say, "Gee," I guess it means, "What do you want?" Real. And so I just go, and it went on for a good month. And I remember, and then she started talking to me again. And she told me I needed discipline. And I was very confused because I thought, don't you have to know you're being disciplined for something? Anyway, it was funny. It showed her she was so unique, and even the workings of her mind, like what she'd decide, were like nothing ambivalent. She was not ambivalent. I'm sorry. Anyway, she was a joy. I'm so sorry that Thea Smallberg can't be here because he spent so much time with her. And then one thing he did say, you know, he says she liked dogs so much. She didn't like dogs before Baba had her take care of dogs. She didn't even like them, you know, so that stories get changed. Anyway, Jai Baba, great soul in a little body. Yeah.
Jai Baba. Thank you so much for everything, Rosalie. Cheryl, did you want to go ahead and unmute and share?
Sure. More than once I had the opportunity to be with Mansari by myself, and I wasn't here at the beginning. I thought it started at noon. So I understand you asked about food stories, and one of the times I was there, both times, but one time I remember clearly, Mansari gave me tea, and she gave me one of those little muffins, and I ate the muffin, and there were crumbs on my plate. And the only way I would have been able to get the crumbs was to pick them up with my hands, and I was always with my fingers, and I felt like I didn't want to touch anything I put in my mouth more than I had to, because I could get sick from just dirty hands. And so I took the plate outside, because she asked me to take the cup and put it somewhere to be washed. And then I took the plate. I remember standing outside at her door, out to the outside, and shaking, brushing off the crumbs onto the ground. And she got absolutely furious with me. And she said, "How dare you throw those crumbs out? You are to eat them." And I said, "But I'm throwing them outside on the ground so the birds can get them." And she said, "The birds have their own food. When you are given food, you need to eat every crumb on your plate." That's what Baba had us do. And that's one story that stood out in my mind for years, and I'd forgotten about it. But it just highlights the environment that the Mandali grew up in, and also grew up with, and also what Baba wants, I feel. The other story is a story that Roshan Karawala told me about water. And, it just is an instruction for me anyhow. I felt it was for all of us, though, to be so careful with not throwing food away. And she was very angry. The other story with Roshan was that she was pouring water when she was younger over Baba's hands at Akbar Press to have him wash his hands when he'd come to visit. And she wasn't really paying attention. And as she poured the water over Baba's hands and his hands were over a bowl, she just kept pouring much more water than was needed. And Baba, I don't know how I don't remember what she said about how maybe he just clapped his hands at that moment and said, "What are you doing?" And she said, "I'm pouring water." He says, "No, you're not paying attention. this is way too much water. He said, do you know how much effort it takes me to get the water to where you can use it and where it's needed? And that just went into my bones, that remark that she told me. So I wanted to share that since someone said you had asked a question about food. Thank you. Thank you all. I'm so happy this is being recorded. I'm just so deeply grateful to you all for all of this energy and effort and participation and sharing, the generosity of heart and soul. I'm just deeply grateful. Thank you.
So good to see you, Cheryl.
Actually, it's Cheryl. It's Cheryl.
Thank you for,
Yeah,
thank you. I know.
Yeah.
You're right. I forgot.
That's all right. Just if you make a mistake, then everybody else starts to. Thank you, though. I mean, Mansari in the beginning was very tough on me, just wouldn't pay attention to me either. And then something happened and she changed. And I'm so grateful for the numerous times, that as the years progressed that I was able to be with her. And I want you to show that film. Do I have one more quick story? I just want to say, well, the story is that every single RT I was there when she was alive, I made my way to the pole. One side of the pole, she used to lean on the outside pole towards where Mara's tomb later became, or whatever we want to call it. And she would stand, and as Chris Barker said, she came up to his waistline. She came up a little bit higher on me, but I could look down at her like it seemed like feet down towards her. And I stood next to her during IT because I wanted to hear her say the prayers, and I wanted her to hear her voice singing the RT and just absorb it as much as I could. It was so wonderful to hear her sound quality of saying the prayers in the RT.
Beautiful, Cheryl. Thank you for sharing. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba. Thank everybody.
I'm just wondering, Kathy Briley, are you around that you hear my voice, that you might want to share a story? You're probably listening, but I don't know if you have time for a story. And also, I'm looking at Alan. Alan, do you have anything you'd like to share?
I have one. Well, I remember Mansari in the largest sense, and all these stories that the folks have told have been quite memorable. I brought my son Matthew when he was 7 on Kitty's suggestion in 1988 in December to Meherabad, to India. And we were at the MPC in those days. And with all due respect to Matt, he was not good at getting up for RT. And in fact, he refused to get up for RT, amongst other things. And Mansari would get on my case to get him up for RT. And on his case, actually, more than my case, because I was up for RT. But due to Mansari and my insistence, on the last day we were there, and it was cold. He had his winter jacket. It's cold in Christmas, New Year's time. We got him up there, and he was groggy at the highest level. But Mansari gave him a sponge and the duty to wash the threshold. And Karen's running in the other room. So I took a picture of this, and we have it placed in Karen's line of all the Mandali members underneath a blessed picture with Baba's signature underneath that Nashwan gave us, which is very cool because that's right. And Karen's going to show I'm going to show the picture here. I don't know if it's visible. So this is Matthew, 33 years ago. He's still a Baba guy, staunch Baba guy, washing the threshold of the avatar.
I didn't know it was because of Mansari's insistence. I learned something.
Well,
Thank you.
well, Alan was insisting, but between the forces of Alan and Mansari, I guess you can get a lot of work done. In any event, that's the memory that we see all day. We can see anytime during the day. And again, it's under a blessed photo of Baba with Baba's signature underneath the blessed photo that Nashwan was loving enough to give us as a gift numerous years ago. So that's a very precious moment for me personally. And I just told Karen something she didn't know, which is even more amazing. Anyway, thanks to everybody for these lovely shares.
And thank you. What a beautiful photograph. It finally just came into focus and it was amazing.
Mm.
Mm.
One day you'll come over.
Jai Baba. Well, gratefully, we have some double dippers. And I think, Susan, your hand was up first if you'd like to go. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, so as people were sharing, I'm remembering more things, of course. And in 1994, I wrote down some of the sayings, Mansariisms, I call them. And she would say, this is the thing. This is the thing, like with the D. This is the thing. And then she got a big kick out of saying, can you dig it? Can you dig it? Oh, that was so much fun. And of course, she called the USA Push Button City or Maya Nagar. Maya Nagar. Anyway, I also remember that in 79, I used to sit on the side. There was one Tata wall then, I guess, or maybe two. One, I don't know. On the side, yeah, on the side where Mara's tomb is now. And I just sit beside her. And I wanted to go in and take my turn to bow down. But every time I got the inkling to go, somebody else would get up. And so I just sit there and sit there. And pretty soon I was the last person to go. And I think that really connected me to Mansari because years later I found out that it was her habit to be the last woman to be leaving the room with Baba. She hung out to be the last one to leave. And she used to stare at Baba. And he almost didn't like it sometimes, but she just kept looking. She wanted to be the last one. And whoever mentioned every crumb on the plate. Yeah, she drove that home to me. I still remember that every day. To clean my plate and how people in the world would have no food at some point, but just a little. Baba said, I'll give you just a little. And so she was very particular about that. And I loved eating her concoction, whatever it was that she made for us. We have a picture of it, but I can't share it now. But yeah, it was whatever. I just wanted to say that, or mentioned, and I don't know whether it can be put somewhere, but Nadine Tolstoy wrote a poem to Dear Mansari with love called The Single Tune. And I don't think I should take the time to read it now, but just to note their connection and her love for her. And then lastly, I wanted to share this picture of Baba. This is a picture that I bought in Amanagar at that little store where we did in 94, was where the trust office. And the last time I saw her when we were leaving, she was standing at her kitchen door waving, and I was waving. And I held this picture up high just as I walked out, you know, my back to her was to her, but this picture was up high because I had the sense that I wouldn't see her again. And I had to hold back my tears and be brave. And so that was the last time I saw her. And thank you all so much for all these wonderful stories. And Daryl, yeah, I remember 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. That's out for each finger, each little mark on your finger, and then the top again. And that's how she'd do 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. Yeah. Anyway, thank you so much.
Thank you, Susan. Just beautiful. Beautiful.
Yeah.
And I don't know if Kunda Nafti, would you like to share something? Are you there?
Yes, Jai Baba.
Jai Baba, would you like to share?
Yeah, I don't know that the year when we met, but whenever we went to Samadhi, we met Mansari. And once I remember, she showed one torch in her room and she showed the Baba's picture in the torch. And that we also saw. And then she said, there is a chair. She said, Baba used to sit on this chair. But she said, everyone have privilege. If you want to sit, you can sit on that chair. Then we said, no, it's a Baba's chair. We will not sit there. And it was a nice, all collection of the picture stories. Very nice to listen. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba. Thank you. It's good to see your face too. Thank you.
Can I just interject for a minute? That what you're talking about, Kunda, the torch was
Yeah.
Hannah Debbie Meyer's picture of, I believe it was Andrew holding the flashlight, and yeah, there was an
Yeah.
image of Baba in the
Baba, yeah, we saw that. Yeah.
and she showed us too. I remember. I also wanted to ask Susan. I remember Mansari. Sorry, I'm kind of butting in. Reciting a poem, maybe Kabir, something about if my pen were something, if I had ink that as much as the ocean. Does anybody remember that? She would say it often. It was about how she could not, there wasn't enough ink, there wasn't I don't know, a good enough pen to express how much she loved Baba, something like that. Anyway, it was something she would say a lot, and I can't remember.
Beautiful, Betty.
Yeah.
Betty, I think that's one of Kabir's couplets that she was reciting.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah.
Marcia, Malt?
I met Mansari in 1994, and I just remember every day going to sit in her kitchen, and that she kept telling us, just recite Baba's name all the time, drinking tea, but I don't remember much else. I just wanted to see her when I was there.
Well, that's the kernel of it all. Thank you. And then Vern Stovall, do you have something? Vern? All right. Okay, well, you may just be doing something else right now. Miguel, it's your chance. Thank you for waiting so long.
Hi, everyone again. With all the little stories, it's very nice. She was a little lady and we have little stories, another little story and another little story and another little story, and each one is a gem. So it's really very, very beautiful. So I remembered another story, another little story. Interesting one too. In one of my first visits, because Israel is closer to India than America, and it's not different in price, but it's closer. It's 7 hours journey in plane, and then it depends how long it took from Bombay to get to Meherabad, which is shortening and shortening because of the roads. So we could come if we wanted. Every year, not that we had money here, because we don't. In Israel, we have less. The dollar is worth more in India than the Israeli currency, but we could manage, and we did. So in one of the visits, a friend of mine who in Israel, there's a whole community of Kuchini Jewish people. And it's a very, very beautiful story because they were waiting for the Messiah. And then when the sign of the Messiah coming is the Israeli nation having a country again, which Baba gave. So the Messiah came in Baba, but they didn't know. And the Israel country was again renewed. So all these very, very beautiful people from Cochin, very, very, how do you say, like children, so clean. They came in one sweep to Israel. So we had all these Cochini people, and always new people, new and different people to get adjusted to the old population is hard, and they didn't have an easy time, but they were very, very sweet-natured. So I got to know this Cochini girl, and she said, "Oh, you're going to India? Then I want to go with you." And I said, "Well, I'm going to my master, and I'm going only there. I'm not going around India, so I don't know if it fits you." And she said, "No, no, no, I want to go. I want to see the place where my family came from." So I said, "Listen, I don't know, but I don't know. I have to think about it," because she was not a Baba lover. And then one day she came to my house and she was wearing a pink shirt. And I said, "Oh, Baba wants her to come." Okay. So I said, "Okay, you can come with me, but I want you to know that I'm not traveling. I'm just going to Baba and back. So you can come with me to Baba. And then from there, if you want to take a journey to Cochin, then you can take a journey to Cochin. I'll stay with Baba. And then come back to Baba. And then we'll go back to Israel." She said, "Fine." But then I thought, well, I can't really leave her to go all this way to Cochin for her first time. She's coming to India because she was the only one in the family who was born in Israel. I can't, so I will have to go with her. So that was my decision. So we come to Baba, and it's around Christmas because it's Hanukkah, and Hanukkah we get the vacation, so we can go. I was in kindergarten and she was in her work, and we get vacation, so we can come. So it was cold, as Alan said at that time, and we came and we stayed a few days, and then we made arrangements to go, and we go to Mansari, and Mansari says, and I never thought about it, I never thought about what she was doing. She said, "Okay, if you go to Cochin, don't eat anything, only bread. Take bread from here and don't eat anything." And I was still not knowing much about Baba and about obedience and all that. It became so natural. I said, "Okay." I took bread from the kitchen, or chapatis or whatever it was, and we packed our things and we went to Cochin, and to the city Cochin, and we saw the graves of her family. We went into the old synagogue of her family, and it was very, very moving and touching. And we didn't stay for a long time, and then we came back. We came to Mahabaleshwar, and Bauji was at that time in the hospital. We came to the hospital in Pune, and then we came back to India, to Meherabad. And all this time, she tried to entice me. "Let's go to restaurants. Let's go to a restaurant. Let's go here. Let's go there." I said, "No, it's okay. You go. I will eat the bread." I will eat the bread that we took. And it was so easy. It was so, so very easy. It's like when Baba says for you to do an order, he gives you the strength to do it. And that was my only trip in India. I never went to India. I went only to Baba. I always went back and forth, back and forth. So she's very sweet, this lady, and she's still with us, not very deeply into it, but always her heart is connected to it, and it's very, very precious. I met all her family. All her family later on went to Cochin and to see all the places that their family grew up in, and it was very beautiful. So, Jai Meherabad. And I have another thing to say is, Susan, you brought so much love in the beginning of the session. You opened it with so much softness and love and from the heart that it just, we are tumbling after you with these memories of love. And Ruth, if I may say, you never shared. Okay, thank you very much.
Jai Baba. Thank you, Miha. Well, my memory of, I remember being in the kitchen and I remember the dogs. And I was there with Charles and his group from the college that he was teaching in. And, you know, it was like, it really important. Charles made it clear it was really important that we go and that we spend some time with Mansari, that it was just very important. So of course I loved it, but it was all just a whirl to me. I can't latch on to any memory. I remember the kitchen so well. We all stood in a row and had our photos taken with her. I probably have it in the other room. Um, the dogs were wonderful. You know, I remember petting the dogs and the birds coming in and out. I felt like I was in a Disney movie with these birds coming in and out. It was like, I forget who that was. It wasn't Snow White, but it was somebody who's, you know, that's how it was in her house. The dwarfs maybe. But anyway, it was just,
Cinderella.
thank you, darling. Cinderella. It just came in, all of it came in through my heart and my gut. And that's kind of where it remains. And I can't pull anything out to articulate, but I was grateful, so grateful to be there. And her, just astounding woman. And so now, Miss Betty Lohman.
Just
Hello.
quickly, I did find that Kabir quote. Thanks, Judy. It's, if I make the seven oceans ink, if I make the trees my pen, if I make the earth my paper, the glory of God cannot be written. I remember her saying that often.
You have to do it again.
All right. If I make the seven oceans ink, if I make the trees my pen, if I make the earth my paper, the glory of God cannot be written.
Thank
This
you so much.
Kabir.
We need a Kabir night or day. Well, is anybody else, this is it, you know, last call in the women's shop. Anybody who's got some memory, please raise your hand because we're going to go to the movie and get another.
I've got one really, really strong memory of that Susan shared an earlier version, I think, of what Mansari said. But I think the thing that I heard her say most often during the last decade of her life was, take his name, win the game, major, minor, and final. That emphasis that she always put on how important it was to recite Baba's name. And I also would like to add so many of the other Mandali, Balnatu, Arnavas, so many of them, that was almost their final message to us, to take Baba's name, win the game, major, minor, and final.
Thank you. That's beautiful, Judy. Now, Rosalie, you walked out of the picture, but you had your hand up. I don't know if you can hear me. I don't know if you still have something you'd like to offer. And there you are. Yes. You still need to unmute, sweet. There you go.
Yeah. No, speaking of food, Mansari fed me super prasad. She'd take the roses that had been overnight in the samadhi, I guess when Mara would come, and she'd make like prasad. She'd make this jam. It almost knocked me off my chair. Just amazing. Anyway, super food.
Really?
I may never recover.
Good. I'm going to hang out with you. All right. Well, I want to show this film one more time.
Oh, yeah.
Just about enough time.
You're muted.
I know. Thank you, everyone, for what you brought today. And boy, those 900 couplets of Kabir. Thank you. Okay, we're going to go ahead to the movie. Jai Baba.
Do you need me to email it to you?
Yes, I don't know where it got to, so please just send it.
Okay, give me a minute.
Yeah, I might be able to pull it up on my other. Hang on a sec. Oop. Yeah. Let me see.
No, you had it, Ruth. You just needed to rewind it. The replay, the arrow in a circle. Is it
Yeah.
called Monty Desai Memorial? Is that the
Yeah.
title of it?
It didn't work. I did
Oh.
try that.
Oh, okay.
I think I tried that. Let me see if I can share from. This is one other way. No, did you send it, Suze? Sorry for the delay, people. I don't know where my.
Not yet. I've got to pull it up on.
Where's coming in?
Something else here.
Carol Werner, Alan Talbot, Susan. Here we go.
You got it?
Yeah, honey. Thank you so much. Okay. Now let me get back to my Zoomy room. There it is. All right. Share screen. There it is. Okay. Make it big.
1, 2, 3.
You are the sneaky sweetie, the thief who stole my heart. Sometimes you walk so close, you hold my hand so tight. Other times you're tricky, hiding out of sight. But when we lose our grasp and begin to fall, you catch us from behind, your love embracing all. You are the sneaky sweetie, the thief who stole my heart. I used to think my heart belonged to me. I used to think my life was free. You snuck in and you changed it all while I slept. Now what I thought was freedom, I'll be glad to forget. For you are my sneaky sweetie, the thief who stole my heart. Oh, you are the sneaky sweetie, the thief who stole my heart. Sometimes you walk so close, you hold my hand so tight. Other times you're tricky, hiding out of sight. But when we lose our grasp and begin to fall, you catch us from behind, your love embracing all. You are the sneaky sweetie, the thief who stole my heart. I used to think my path was mine. I used to think my plans were fine. You snuck in and changed all the roads while I was asleep. Sometimes I rejoice and sometimes I weep, but I love you, my sneaky sweetie, the thief who stole my heart. Oh, you are the sneaky sweetie, the thief who stole my heart. Sometimes you walk so close, you hold my hand so tight. Other times you're tricky, hiding out of sight. But when we lose our grasp and begin to fall, you catch us from behind, your love embracing all. Oh, you are my sneaky sweetie, the thief who stole my heart. I used to think that God could wait. I used to think my thoughts were so great. You snuck in and you muddled them while I was asleep. And now there's not a thought that I would like to keep from you. Oh, my sneaky sweetie, the thief who stole my heart. You are the sneaky sweetie, the thief who stole my heart. Sometimes you walk so close, you hold my hand so tight. Other times you're tricky, hiding out of sight. But when we lose our grasp and begin to fall, you catch us from behind, your love embracing all. Oh, you are the sneaky sweetie, the thief who stole my heart. Well, I wonder what you got up your sleeve. I won't mind if you never leave. I'm turning it all over to you, this poor heart. Now we'll be together, never, never apart. I love you, my sneaky sweetie, the thief who stole my heart. Oh, you are the sneaky sweetie, the thief who stole my heart. Sometimes you walk so close, you hold my hand so tight. Other times you're tricky, hiding out of sight. But when we lose our grasp and begin to fall, you catch us from behind, your love embracing all. You are the sneaky sweetie, the thief who stole my heart. Yes, you are the sneaky sweetie, the thief who stole my heart.
Well, Che Baba,
Jay Baba.
let's all unmute and have a Kiche together.
And Susan, thank you so much for inspiring this. This has been a wonderful sharing. It brings back those precious years to me. Thanks to everyone that shared. Jay Baba.
Jay Bob.
Jai
Thank
Baba.
you. Avatar,
Jai Baba.
Che Baba, everyone.
Thanks, Ruthie.
Pleasure, such a pleasure. My grateful pleasure.
Lovely time.
That was awesome.
So beautiful, Susan,
Very good to
everyone,
see you.
Judy, oh my
Sorry, pull
amazing
out.
stories. Rosalie, everyone.
It looked
Thank
like
you so much.
Mansari was flying when she bowed down to Baba, flat out. She was like, whoa.
Wow.
Who were the people singing that wonderful song, Sneaky Sweetie? Who was it? Was that you, Ruth?
No, it was Susan. Are you there?
Susan. Susan and Daryl?
Christy, yeah, Keeler and Charlie.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Susan, you're muted.
Oh.
Susan, you're muted.
We're going to find another name for another word for mute.
Keeler. Oh,
There-
actually, she wrote it on her first visit, which I believe was 1980. Her first visit, she plays piano. She wrote the words and the music, but her daughter's birthday was today, so she couldn't be here. But she's going to be thrilled to see this video and all this heartfelt sharing. Oh, it's so touching.
What a wonderful song, too. My God.
Lovely song. I love it. Is it available? Is it out in a Baba book?
Oh, what do you want what do you want? Do you want to get
music and a little poem that knitting Tolstoy?
Oh, let's see.
Sure.
Give
Can you
me
read it? Email in the chat.
Yeah, will you put your email in the chat?
Yeah, me too.
Why don't you read it?
Was that Adele in one of those pictures?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So cute, wasn't she? Oh my.
Are you Michelle Schaefer Music? Oh, you're a musician.
Yeah, I'm Michelle. Jai Baba.
Oh, okay.
Hi, Michelle.
We'll do that.
Hi everyone. All right.
Is it too long, that poem? Can't you read it to us?
Yeah.
We only have about 5 minutes, Susan.
Let's read.
5 minutes is
I
enough.
think it's 5 minutes.
Yeah, please read it.
Yeah.
Okay. To dear Mansari with love, the single tune. I am an instrument of one string. One note is its ever-sounding melody. One and the same soul is singing its tune. One perfect artist is its eternal singer. Eternal is that sound, as it sings the most innermost secret of the hidden heart. Sweeter than all songs of love, as it has only one lover, and its lover is one love. Purer than any crystalline cane, as it can never be disturbed. Quieter than any known stillness, as it has to be discovered where no mortals seek. The never-ending joy of that one tune is a wonder. It opens the beauty never faced or known before. Unknown, yet unfamiliar, yet familiar and dear. It takes your heart into ecstasy. It makes you close your eyes in search of the seat of that mystery. It reverses your steps from the outward into the inward. It makes you bewildered and still. In stillness of death for the mortals, in stillness of bliss for the immortals, still is the heart of the single tune. Still is the harmony of oneness. Nadine Tolstoy, Southbury, Connecticut, America, 1932.
Wow.
Well, she wrote this for Mansari, for
Yeah,
Mansari's birthday.
underneath it says, Mansari has suffered a series of heart attacks near Emertithi time. We send our love and prayers that she may get well soon.
It's beautiful.
Thank you, Susan, for everything. Such a wonderful, wonderful day.
Oh, it was beautiful.
Yeah, all of us.
Yeah, my pleasure. Baba's pleasure.
Jai Baba.
Jai Baba
Baba.
Mansari. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
Here you are.
Michelle Schaefer music. Okay, I've got to make sure I get that.
I think, you know, I'm on the Adrian's listserv. I'm in also.
Oh, you are?
Yeah, I'm on that list as well.
Oh, okay, good. I'm writing it down too right now.
No C, no double F, SHAFER.
Thank you, Ruth. Thank you all.
Yeah, lovely job,
Jai
Ruth.
Baba, everyone.
Jai Baba.
It's all Baba. We
Wonderful,
know.
wonderful time together with Mansari and Baba.
Yeah.
Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
Just looking for Jacqueline to see if she's coming. She has a